Happy Sunday, folks. Welcome into the channel. Thank you so much for joining. I hope your weekend is going fantastic so far. We've got a quick hitting video to put together this morning. I'm going to cover three main topics. Got a little action going on out in the tropical Atlantic, potentially some tropical energy coming off of Africa going to develop, maybe. So we're going to take a look at that and see what conditions look like out there and what the models are showing. We're going to look at the severe weather threat that's unfolding yet again across the northern tier again and again and again. We're seeing this every single day, parts of the mid-Atlantic as well, as a stationary front sort of meanders around up there. And we've got a heat wave, folks, that is unfolding, and it's going to be hot for the next several days, but something is going to break the back of that heat, at least temporarily, and we're going to look and see what is happening with that. So we're going to get into that, going to rapid fire it this morning. Had a lot of growth over the last 96 hours or so on this channel. Really want to thank you for subscribing and signing up. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like the content, leave a comment. As I said yesterday, my grandmother passed away. You guys have been so kind with all of the thoughts, the comments, the prayers. Really appreciate the outpouring of support. Continue to lift us up. We'll continue to lift you up too every day. And if there's something specific we can pray about, please put it in the comments and let me know. I really appreciate all of your support, and thank you for joining the channel. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the severe weather threat today, folks. We've got, more severe weather potentially. We've got some thunderstorms out there, a little bit of a rough ride through parts of the night for parts of Minnesota, North Dakota. But yeah, another severe weather threat is out there again today, really from Great Falls to Sioux Falls up to Green Bay. In the UP of Michigan, we're looking at a slight risk, a marginal risk at least, for severe thunderstorms. Over here in the mid-Atlantic too, from southern Pennsylvania down through the eastern sections of Virginia and North Carolina back up to New Jersey, isolated to widely scattered severe thunderstorms later today. But the focus really is going to be eastern Minnesota back through southern Minnesota and the UP of Michigan here, splitting Wisconsin, where we're going to see the best risk of organized severe weather. Tornadoes are possible along a boundary as supercells develop this afternoon. For the first 2 or 3 hours, we're going to see supercells be the dominant mode. Spinning along that boundary could produce a couple of tornadoes, and then eventually things will organize into a wind threat. We'll see a cluster kind of move together through the afternoon and evening hours, and then bring a hail threat as well with some steep lapse rates, some good cooling with height. Tomorrow, wash, rinse, repeat, just a little bit farther to the south. We've got that quasi-stationary boundary. It's sort of meandering through like this, kind of going like that. It's actually not that far south, but in any event, it's sort of meandering and around, and it's going to slip farther south. And so we'll see the severe weather threat kind of go south a little bit farther along as we go through the next couple of days. But centered here, Aberdeen, Pierre, over here into southwestern Minnesota is the best risk tomorrow, but slight risk back into Montana for some high base thunderstorms as well. Tornadoes not out of the question as a low pressure, a weak surface low kind of moves in and spins the atmosphere. Winds, though, the primary threat, and hail also a threat as well. Could see some hail, getting up close to 2 inches with some of the vigorous updrafts. Lots of instability, folks. We looked at this yesterday. Go back and look at that video. It's I've got the severe weather stuff kind of in front, but really seen a lot of instability, particularly in that section. Ignore that. That's too far to the west, but lots of instability out here. Big instability. Looking thunderstorms need instability, by the way. The bigger the instability values, the stronger the updraft potentially. But looking at the satellite image this morning, got some low clouds and fog hanging down here back toward Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, called the Arklatex. And then we've got a few thunderstorms working through central Missouri, approaching St. Louis. Clouds associated with that boundary all the way through the Ohio Valley, bringing some showers and thunderstorms back all the way up into New England, where it's really cloudy. If you're heading out to church, carry those umbrellas. And unfortunately, if you've got some plans later this afternoon, you might have to dodge showers up here. There are some showers, thunderstorms kind of dissipating through North Dakota and northern Minnesota, just north of the Twin Cities. As we go through the afternoon, we'll see this morning things kind of wind down over here in the Midwest, but look over here in New England. Got some showers that you have to dodge out there this morning. They'll dissipate a little bit, but renewed convection will develop along some boundaries and outflows up here in New England. You see those thunderstorms breaking out all the way through North Carolina, some down here in Florida along the Gulf Coast as well, back to the front range of the Rockies. That cluster that was bothering Minnesota this morning has moved into Canada, but that boundary is going to still be there, and so we're going to see thunderstorms light up along that boundary. Could see a few severe thunderstorms here in the mid-Atlantic, and then back into Montana could see some high base thunderstorms back toward as we get into Oregon. But look at that boundary light up in Minnesota later today. See a few supercells, and then some wind threat will pick up as things kind of organize organize into a line segment. Things will dissipate as we go on into the overnight hours, eventually with that line dissipating through Wisconsin. Another piece of energy moving across the northern tier. There's not a lack of energy up there in the mid-level flow, so we're going to see these little perturbations move through, spark showers and thunderstorms as we get on into Monday afternoon, again in the southeast. As that ridge slips to the west just a little bit, we get on the east side of that and start to see a little bit better response in terms of showers and thunderstorms. New England looking good, but again, monsoon will flow through the Four Corners, showers and thunderstorms there. But look at this big cluster starting to develop. South Dakota, on the border of South Dakota and Minnesota. That looks mean, folks. Some of the models are really cranking this thing up. So we'll see a tornado threat initially, but really could see an organized wind threat again as one of these clusters moves through again southern Minnesota and then pushes into Wisconsin. Now, the slight risk doesn't exist this far east, but if this continues to show on the models, we may see that slight risk get into Wisconsin and parts of the upper Mississippi Valley too. More showers and thunderstorms, a couple of severe ones across Montana potentially. And then all of that will die out as we go through the evening hours and approach Tuesday morning, folks. That's what's going on radar wise. Here is the upper air map. This is really the mid-level ridging map, and this shows you where the flow exists. And the flow, here's got a trough kind of coming into the west coast. The flow is kind of going along something like this, the main flow, and we'll see little pieces of energy kind of move along in this and spark showers and thunderstorms every day. Under the core of the ridge, it's a little bit harder to get showers and thunderstorms because the mid-levels are warm, and thunderstorms don't like to develop when you have warm mid-levels. But look at this, we get all the way in, it starts, ridge axis starts over the southeast, we get into Monday, Tuesday, and then by the time we get into midweek, the ridge axis has moved all the way over to the Arklatex. So it hasn't made much progress. It's going to be hot. That's what I'm telling you. It's going to be hot. But look what's happening up here. Big trough kind of swinging in. We've got another ridge popping up into Canada. This is sort of a positive tilted ridge. And I'll teach you something here, folks. We'll look at this again in a minute. But these positive tilted ridges like this, when you see this, we get a response where we get flow coming this way. When you start to get a neutral tilted ridge, then we get flow coming this way. So that's going to be important. Just keep that in the back of your minds, and we'll get back to that here in a few minutes. Here's the surface map. There's that boundary. Got a little wave of low pressure developing. Got a flood threat and a severe threat this afternoon. Anywhere in the green, you could see scattered showers and thunderstorms. Western Florida, back along the Gulf Coast, up to the mid-Atlantic. There's a frontal boundary slipping through. Could see a few heavy showers and thunderstorms. Torrential rainfall rates are going to come out of these storms in this tropical air mass, as we talk about every day. Front slips through here into the upper Midwest and Central Plains, bringing a severe weather threat tomorrow ahead of that little wave of low pressure and an enhanced rainfall threat there. A little bit more of the area of the southeast gets in on the action tomorrow, and maybe northern New England sees a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. We get on into Tuesday, see that front bringing a little bit farther south, probably going to see a slight risk somewhere in the north central plains or central plains area on Tuesday, and the front is kind of slipping south, and behind that here comes another front reinforcing shot of cool air, going to get it into the picture as we go on through the week. High temperatures this afternoon going up near 100 across the Piedmont of North Carolina down into the eastern sections of the southeast. Either way, it's going to be super humid, approaching 100, exceeding it in some places in the central plains, 80s and 90s everywhere else. A little bit better up here in New England, not quite as humid, but still humid enough. And then a trough working into the west coast of the United States, keeping it cooler around Seattle, the interior portions warming up, and of course hot in the desert southwest. And here's where the rubber meets the road with the heat wave, though, folks. With all this tropical air, we've got heat indexes going up into the 100s across a good portion of the country. There it is. Heat values this today on Sunday, moderate to major to even extreme, where we see heat index values approaching 115 in the southeast. As we go through the week, looking at tomorrow, the same sort of pattern exists. Central plains over into parts of the northeast, all the way down into Florida. Moderate to extreme heat index values. You've got to take breaks. I know a lot of you have to be outside. Take those breaks, stay hydrated, and keep cool when you can, and do work where you can in segments outside, because especially in the southeast, you can't cool off when it's so humid. It's hard to cool off. Major to extreme heat problems here as we get on into Tuesday. But look what happens Wednesday. We start to see a little bit of relief up north. Still cooking here in the southeast. We're just baking down here. And then as we get on in toward Thursday and to Friday, look at this, finally getting some yellows down here, folks. This is going to feel good, even some blank areas up here. So looking forward toward the end of the week when we get some drier air. We're going to take a look at why that's happening, but right now we're going to check in on those tropics. So I showed this yesterday. I'm not going to beat a dead horse today, folks. We're just going to look at this quickly, but to give you an idea of what's happening out here. This is the European Ensemble mean probabilities of tropical cyclone formation out in the Atlantic. There are 51 members that make this model up, and there is decent agreement here that we will see tropical formation out in the Atlantic. This is at least a tropical depression. It could be, we'll have to see if something develops, how conditions materialize in order to assess whether or not we can get to tropical storm or hurricane status. But at least there is a decent chance. This shows a 50 to 60% probability here of a tropical cyclone being formed in the Atlantic and then moving off this way. We also see a little bit of noise here off the Carolina coast. What does that mean? Well, we're going to take a look at that too. These are the individual members, okay? So all of the 51 members, some of them develop low pressure. Not all of them, but some of them do. And that's why you see sort of a 50 to 60% chance, because 50 to 60% chance of the members actually develop a little low pressure out here. As we advance this along, much like yesterday, this moves along. This is toward the middle of the week, and now we've advanced to Saturday. And Saturday we get on into Sunday, and then Monday of next week, and we start to see then a clustering. We go from a clustering of tracks sort of to a divergence of tracks as we get way on out into the following week. Tuesday, we start to see some curve off up this way, some curve off this way, and you see some noise out here off the Carolina coast. Well, there are some indications, at least on some of the operational models and the ensembles too, that we can see a little bit of a homegrown activity here. There's your satellite picture, folks. I'm not really happy with this image because I don't have it centered right. I'm going to fix this over the next couple of days, but you get the gist of it. We've got our tropical wave coming off here. This is it coming off the coast of Africa. It's going to make its way this way. Here's another tropical wave. Here's one. Here's one. None of those are going to develop. The shear environment is not favorable. And then we've got some higher cloud tops here over Central America as well. And there's your big frontal zone associated with a storm that's departing up there. So that's what's going on out in the Atlantic. This looks ragged, doesn't it? It doesn't look like a spinning cyclone. It looks like a big bunch of mess, and that's what it really is. And so it needs to get together. We need to see tighter convection develop before we get too concerned. The Hurricane Center has no probabilities out here today for the next 7 days, so that's why I'm not showing you that. This is the dry air, moist air map, and this is important. We've got a big high pressure ridge up here. Africa is right here, folks. This is Africa down here. This is the United States. In case you can't make that out, there it is. Big high pressure ridge here, and it is just, you know, funneling any dry air that's coming off. Is just sending it on down into the main development region, and this is dry air in our main development region. So watch this region here. This is the region that we're focusing on, and we want to see, if we want to see tropical development, you want to see no air in this region, or not very much dry air at all in that region there. So I'm going to move this along, and you got that little moisture with that wave coming off. We get on out into midweek. It's got a lot of dry air around it. Look at that. See all that dry air down there? It's surrounded by dry air. That's really not ideal. But more dry air comes off, another wave comes off. We've got a lot of dry air mixing in here, and so we really don't have ideal conditions. There's just enough, enough moisture around it, maybe that it develops a little bit if it can hold off absorbing that dry air. But we just see that dry air train just continuing to mix in, and additional waves come off. Maybe over time we get into a better favorable position here. We start to see more and more waves. This is the European operational model, and we start to see some moistening up. So that would be a little more favorable for tropical development. There's your main development region. This is the wind shear. Blues are not great. Whites are good for tropical development. We get on out here to Monday, some blues, but they're kind of abating, and now we've got a kind of a favorable, more of a favorable wind shear pattern. The winds loosen up or lighten up a bit, and we start to see a little low pressure pop up here and there, and there's circulation that kind of gets on in toward the Antilles by the end of the weekend. So that's what or the beginning of the weekend rather. And so we may have some favorable wind environment out here for development as well. And so we're going to watch that over the course of the next couple of days. The GFS and the European model themselves kind of show a little bit of intermittent development, but nothing all that noteworthy, probably because there's just enough wind shear and just enough dry air to keep that development knocked down a bit. In any event, that's what's going on in the tropics way out there, and I'll keep you posted as things change, but we're kind of 50-50 on development out there. As we look back toward the home continent here, home base, we can get out here and see as we get on out in toward next Friday. Look at what the GFS does. This is long range, and this is an operational model, and I really don't like to show operational model runs. I don't trust them that far out. We look at ensembles to get a good idea of the picture, but the GFS develops a little system, and what does it do with it? Does it bring it into land? No, it takes it right on out toward the coast. It develops another one off here, off the coast of the southeast, because we have some energy kind of lingering out here. Does it bring it into land? No, it brings it on out to this off to the east and eventually northeast. Why does it do that? Well, I'll tell you in just a minute. Here's the European. What does it show? Nothing going on much in the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of Cold Rain, the Gulf of America, or whatever you want to call it. Nothing going on much at all. As we get on out into next Thursday, we see a frontal boundary kind of coming through, working in. That's going to be good for cool weather too. That frontal boundary will linger off the coast a bit, and look what happens. Stalled frontal boundary off the coast, a little bit of a signal for low pressure. This is way out in August the 6th land, folks. Nothing imminent, but again, it takes it off, shoots it to the northeast. Why does it do that? Well, it's the pattern, folks, and we're going to look at that pattern. But right now, check this out. This is the GFS operational model. We talk about this heat wave over and over and over. Well, look what happens. We've got heat coming in. This is Monday, okay? This is Monday morning. Look at all that red over the east. But look up here in Canada. Boom, big blues and purples starting to come in. This looks like wintertime, doesn't it, folks? You got some channels calling for an Arctic outbreak here in the winter or in the middle of the summer. Is that going to happen? No. No Arctic outbreaks in summer. Don't fall for that. That's silly. But we do have below normal temperatures as we get on in toward next weekend over much of the central and eastern portion of the country. We get a big warm up, and then look what happens again. Boom, another big Arctic outbreak coming back in, folks. There we have it. That's the GFS. What does the European show? Well, does it agree? This is the European operational model again. Monday, Tuesday, look what's coming. Here we go. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it looks like it's in agreement pretty good. We get a nice cool down as we get into next weekend. It's going to be drier too. What about after that? Do we get that second cool down? Well, here it comes, warming up. Ooh, no. This cool down stays north. It might clip New England, but the European doesn't agree with the second cool down. It warms us back up. Here's the GFS ensembles. Does it agree with its initial GFS or if it's its parent GFS operational run? Well, it does on the first cold shot. Get in here into Sunday, next weekend, and then what happens after? Ooh, warms us back up. We get on out here in time. There it is, warm. And finally, the European ensemble agrees with the GFS ensemble, which agrees with the operational European, which does not agree with the GFS operational. Did you follow all that, folks? That's why we don't use operational models to look at long-range patterns. We use ensembles because one operational run, just because it shows two what look like cold blasts or Arctic blasts, doesn't mean that's going to happen. And in this case, it's not going to happen. We're probably going to get one cool shot, cools us down, back below, a little bit below normal. We're talking temperatures in the 70s and 80s down here in the upper southeast. It's going to feel great with lower humidity, but we're not going to see a massive Arctic outbreak or anything of the sort. Here's your pattern. This is what's going on as we get on out here toward midweek. This is the mid-level ridging, and you see that here. Look at this. It's moving toward Texas as we get on out into Tuesday. There's that other positive. Remember I told you positive is kind of slanted northwest to southeast. That allows the flow to kind of come this way, and you can see that on the streamlines. It's not connected to this ridge. I wish it was connected to this ridge and we'd poke it all the way up into Canada and send all of this down and it would really cool us off, but it's not. And so what happens over time is that ridge in Canada sort of links up a little bit with this ridge in the United States. It flattens out though, and we get this flat flow as we get way on out in time. And the flat flow is going to keep the cooler air bottled up in Canada. It's going to allow a little bit of troughing to set up here, a little flat trough along the east coast that will keep tropical systems at bay. When you have a trough out here, the winds kind of go this way. So that's why we saw those tropical systems. See, it's all making sense now, right? We saw those tropical systems shooting off. If they were to develop, they're going to shoot off because of this trough, because this ridge is centered back over the Four Corners region. It's flat, but there's still enough of a trough there. And that trough will keep temperatures from getting too hot in the east We'll probably see some humidity come back, but over time, as long as that ridge stays out west, the big heat is not going to occur in the eastern section of the country, and we'll see precipitation chances go up in that part of the world too. We see this over time next Friday into the weekend and beyond into the following week. We see the northern and eastern and especially southeastern portion of the country start to see above normal precipitation. If that ridge goes over to the western portion of the country, we'll see troughing in the east, and this is the result of that. And that's your show for today. That's your Sunday quick hitting video. I hope you have learned a couple things. If you have any questions, type them in the comments. I'm happy to answer those. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll be back tomorrow with a full Cold Rains Weather World. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.